Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session called Class Planning Strategies for English Instructors. My name is Ruben Oropesa, part of the team of professionals here at Customer Service College. And in today's session, we're going to be discussing several strategies we can use when planning our classes and discuss the importance of such. Before we begin, let's begin by talking about why planning is important. Well, have you ever traveled to a city, maybe a new city, and gotten lost? Well, basically, planning serves the same purpose as a map. When you get lost, you use a map to help you reach your destination, and planning basically serves the same purpose when teaching, helping us reach our objectives to help our students learn. And something that we have to consider when planning a class is the following. What do I want to accomplish in my class? What are the objectives I want to reach? What do I want my students to learn? And take into account both individual student needs as well as the needs of the group as a whole. So let's begin by discussing something very important that all of us are very familiar with, the use of didactic material. So let's begin. So as language instructors, something that's very important for us is the use of didactic material. So we have to keep in mind that every time we use material in class, use material that adapts to each learning style. So imagine that we have a class of an hour and 30 minutes and we have to create an outline of activities. What we advise you is to start with an icebreaker activity. Keep in mind that an icebreaker serves the same purpose as a coffee. When you start the class, students are thinking about other activities. So an icebreaker activity helps them get into the zone and allows you as a teacher to monitor if you need to reteach or review previously presented vocabulary, because at the end of the day, an icebreaker serves the purpose of reviewing previously presented vocabulary. So an icebreaker, which is shouldn't last longer than 8 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes. Then we follow with a warm-up question that reinforces previously presented structures. Keep in mind that every time you teach a class, you should have your topic. Imagine that my topic is simple present. An icebreaker could be reviewing vocabulary around town, places, and the warm-up question could be a question that talks about free weekend activities or free time activities. That warm-up question serves as a reinforcement for us as teachers to monitor the grammar presented. So the icebreaker serves the purpose of reviewing previously presented vocabulary, and a warm-up question using that vocabulary from the icebreaker helps us monitor structures. And the warm-up question shouldn't last longer than 10 minutes. So in this case, if you think about it, an icebreaker activity, 5 minutes, a warm-up question, 10 minutes, and then you follow it with the vocabulary you want to present in class, your vocabulary presentation. That shouldn't last longer than 5 minutes. After that, you present your vocabulary practice, an activity where students practice the vocabulary you recently presented. That practice, we recommend anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes, and then your class presentation, which is your teaching part, what you want students to learn. Your class presentation should go anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. And then after that, the guided practice, which is another 15 minutes. And recommending ending the class with a consolidation activity to reinforce the structures presented in writing, 15 minutes, and your application activity, another 15 minutes. This gives you a total of an hour and 30 minutes. And what we're going to do today is analyze each of these. So let's begin with icebreakers, which is our first activity in class, which shouldn't last longer than 5 minutes. These fun vocabulary games help us create a more relaxed environment, giving students the opportunity to unwind from their daily activities, and thus, as teachers, the opportunity to monitor if students are grasping the vocabulary we have presented correctly. So now let's go over some ideas we can use in class as icebreakers, which are great for students. They love playing these games, and great for us teachers to monitor their use of vocabulary. Remember that the point of the icebreaker is to reinforce vocabulary through speaking activities. And we use them at the beginning of the class because it allows us to monitor their use of the vocabulary previously presented, allowing other students who might be running late to come to class if they happen to miss that first part. Technically, it's not affecting them throughout the rest of the session. And icebreakers are where we as teachers become creative because we can use many games. We can create our spelling games, charades, or even buy or make our own games. For example, I found this great spin the wheel, very, very cheap online. And I can write in here the vocabulary I want students to say in English or give them points. You can even buy some board games. These headbands, for example, I bought it, but I had also made them myself because it's just a card that they can use on a tiara or something like that. And then these fun buzzers, you can ask different teams, how do you spell this word? And whoever presses the buzzer first, you give them the point if they get it correctly. So the idea is for them to enjoy the language. We want to make learning fun, and these type of icebreakers motivate them, get the students ready to begin the session. What are some of the icebreakers you've used? Some of the games. I would love to see your comments. Let's start sharing ideas between each other. We as language instructors, maybe we've used several games and other teachers have other games that work for them. So what are some of the icebreakers you used when it comes to reinforcing vocabulary? I love to read your comments. Okay, so now that we went over the idea of icebreakers in class, let's check a sample icebreaker from one of our sessions. Enjoy. So after we have our icebreaker activity, we follow it with a warm-up activity. In this case, a warm-up can be a set of questions, true and false statements to be discussed in groups. The purpose of a warm-up activity is to review previously presented information. Depending on your students, this review can be done in the form of questions, true or false sentences, or discussion ideas. It is usually done right after the icebreaker to connect that vocabulary from the icebreaker to the questions you prepared. And it leads to the main topic of the class. So for example, if I am presenting the simple present in class today, and my topic is weekend routines, the icebreaker I would have done could be maybe a set of places around town to visit on the weekends. And my warm-up can be a set of questions, for example, what is your favorite restaurant? What is your favorite store? In this case, if you notice the questions I just said, don't include the simple present because it's a warm-up is supposed to be a review. I can't expect my students to use the simple present if that's the topic I'm presenting. So by using questions with the verb be, I allow them to reinforce a grammar that was presented in previous sessions. So that's the purpose of the warm-up, to help students review the information in conversations. After my warm-up activity, I follow it with my vocabulary presentation. This is where we as teachers usually present a set of words for our students to listen and repeat. For example, This is where I would present my vocabulary, switch, toy, depending on the topic. We recommend using anywhere from 6 to 8 words, and these words are the ones you would connect to your presentation. In the case of a simple present presentation, since the topic is weekend routines, I would probably present a set of verbs I can use in my main presentation. For example, go out, relax, have fun, take a nap. And these verbs are part of my vocabulary presentation that I would tie into a vocabulary activity. And then after that, my main presentation. In this case, simple present structures in present, affirmative, negative, and depending on your calendar, questions. And something we have to keep in mind when presenting is how to use the board. We should try to keep our board as clean as possible since it's one of the tools students use as a point of reference when they need help. At the beginning of your class, try to write down the class objectives since these give the security to the students of what they will be learning. We want to let them know what they should be able to master by the end of the session. In the center, we write down important information. And for both of these, for the class objectives and the important information, this is what we consider non-erasable. We don't erase this for students to look at when needed. Important information is basically the information you are presenting. For example, if I'm teaching the simple present, this is where I will write down my examples and my structure. I go out on weekends, I don't stay home, and of course the structure, the subject, the auxiliary, the verb. And where it says erasable information, this is where we write down answers to questions students might have. For example, if they need help with the spelling of the word, or if they want to know some sort of idea for an answer in their textbook, this is where we write down the information. And then once it's no longer needed, we would erase it for us to continue having a clean board for students to look at and not be confused. And then, of course, after presenting your topic, in this case, the simple present, we usually have a guided practice, which means an exercise from the book that students answer complete. And this is where we as teachers, we monitor that they are grasping the information correctly, correcting them if they're making any mistakes, for the information, if it's used incorrectly, not to be solidified, which means them using it incorrectly in the future. So the guided practice is usually what we as teachers assign from the book. However, after that part, we end our session with a consolidation activity and an application activity. What do these mean? A consolidation activity usually reinforces what was presented in a writing type of exercise. This is no longer guided, so we as teachers, we can check that the information was grasped correctly. For example, if I were to be presenting the simple present with the topic of weekend activities, a consolidation activity would be having my students write down a set of questions they can eventually ask their partners. Or maybe a diary, something that shows that the information was understood in the form of writing. And the application activity is usually connected to the consolidation activity as a follow-up exercise, since it's focusing on the speaking part. So the application activity would be, in this case, having your students discuss the questions they wrote in dialogues. So you can have them in groups of 3 or 4, and the questions that they wrote in their consolidation activity, in the application activity, they will just be discussing the information. So these last two activities are no longer guided, They're open exercises. One focuses on the writing, one in the speaking part. And of course, we as teachers, we can be creative by having these two combined in the form of a game. How many of you have played Jeopardy or True and False or Guess the Word? Very similar to the icebreaker, but now with the new information to verify that they are using it correctly. I hope you enjoyed this quick overview of class planning strategies for language instructors, and I will eventually see you in our next video. Again, my name is Ruben Oropesa, part of the team at Customer Service College. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.